The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched out like a small moon. Thousands of seats rose in circular tiers, each one holding a representative from a different world. Lights from 100 different suns filtered through the massive dome above, casting strange colors across the assembled aliens. Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the human section, which was positioned near the back. The location said everything about how the galaxy viewed Earth. Important species sat close to the center. Ancient civilizations held the inner rings. Humanity got seats in the cheap section, 15 rows from the top. Chen didn't mind. He had learned long ago that underestimation could be a weapon. The human wishes to speak? High Admiral Vex Thor's voice boomed across the chamber. The Zalthine commander stood at the central podium, his forearms crossed in what Chen recognized as dismissive posture. Vex Thor's scales glittered blue and gold under the lights. This should prove entertaining. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not cruel laughter, exactly. More like adults humoring a child who wanted to sit at the grown-up table. Chen stood slowly. He was a small man, barely 5'6", with gray hair and a face that revealed nothing. He had been a diplomat for 32 years. Before that, he had been other things. Things that taught him patience. "High Admiral," Chen said, his voice calm and clear. "Earth wishes to offer military assistance in defending the outer territories against the Corinthian Dominion." The laughter grew louder. Someone in the Vexillian section made a sound like a wheezing kettle. The Plotharian delegate actually slapped his tentacles together in amusement. Vex Thor raised one hand and the chamber quieted. "Ambassador Chen, we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm. However, we must be realistic. Your species has been part of the Federation for only 15 years. 15 years. Some of us have children older than your entire membership." 17 years, corrected a voice from the Archon section. "But who counts?" More laughter. Chen waited for it to die down. "Nevertheless, High Admiral, we have resources that might prove useful." Vex Thor's second set of arms unfolded. He tapped commands on a holographic display. An image appeared above the chamber, showing Earth's registered military vessels. "Let us review," Vex Thor said. "According to our most recent intelligence, Earth possesses 43 registered warships. Your largest vessels are what you call destroyers. They measure approximately 300 meters in length. They are powered by, and please correct me if I am wrong, fusion reactors that we stopped using 4,000 years ago." The chamber was silent now. Everyone watched the display. Chen knew what they saw. Earth's military looked primitive compared to the sleek vessels of the Zalthine, the living ships of the Vex, or the phase-shifting cruisers of the Mentari Empire. "Your weapons," Vex Thor continued, "include kinetic projectiles and chemical missiles. Again, please correct me if I am mistaken, but these are technologies that most civilizations abandoned millennia ago." "You are not mistaken," Chen said simply. "Then you must understand our position. The Corinthian Dominion fields over 300 warships. Each one is larger and more advanced than your entire fleet combined. Their shields can withstand plasma cannons. Their weapons can crack a planet's crust. We are facing an enemy that has conquered 17 systems in the past 2 years. Vex Thor's voice softened slightly. "Ambassador Chen, Earth is a valued member of our Federation, which is precisely why we plan to evacuate your outer colonies first. We will not sacrifice human lives in a battle you cannot win." Chen smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible. But several of the closer delegates noticed it and felt suddenly uncomfortable, though they couldn't say why. "That is generous, High Admiral. However, I should mention that Earth has contingencies in place." "Contingencies?" Vex Thor made a sound like grinding stones. "Ambassador, I mean no offense, but what contingencies could a species have after only 15 years in the galactic community?" "That," Chen said pleasantly, "is classified." The word hung in the air. Classified. Several delegates shifted in their seats. The concept was foreign to most of them. The Federation valued transparency. Secrets were considered primitive, something that backward civilizations clung to. Counselor Thane, a methane-breathing Gotharian, spoke from his sealed chamber. "The humans suggest they have military secrets from whom?" Everyone in this chamber has shared technology with Earth. We know exactly what capabilities you possess. Do you? Chen asked. Counselor Thane, when was the last time the Federation inspected Earth's Kuiper Belt? The Kuiper Belt? Thane's translator made his confusion clear. That is the region beyond. Your outer planets, is it not? There is nothing there but ice and rock. Why would we inspect it? No particular reason, Chen said. He sat down. The delegates looked at each other. A few whispered conversations started, but Vexthor brought his fist down on the podium, and the noise stopped. Enough of this. We have real matters to discuss. Ambassador Chen, Earth's offer is noted and declined. For your own safety, please begin evacuation protocols for your colonies in the Proxima and Tau Ceti systems. Federation forces will arrive to assist within 72 hours. And if the Corinthians arrive first, someone called out. Then pray they are merciful, Vexthor said grimly. This session is adjourned. The delegates began filing out. Chen gathered his small datapad and made his way toward the exit. He walked slowly, letting the crowd thin. Ambassador. Chen turned. Vexthor had descended from the podium and approached him. Up close, the Zaltine was even more imposing. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, and his scaled hide looked tough enough to stop bullets. Hi, Admiral. This talk of contingencies, Vexthor said quietly. You were serious? Completely. Chen, I have been a military commander for 70 years. I have fought in 9 wars. I know when someone is bluffing. And you are either the best bluffer I have ever met or you are telling the truth. I cannot decide which. Chen nodded slowly. Hi, Admiral, let me ask you something. When Earth joined the Federation, what did your intelligence services tell you about our history? That you had only just achieved faster than light travel? That your world was divided into hundreds of separate nations? That you had fought numerous wars among yourselves using primitive weapons? Did they mention that we nearly destroyed ourselves at least 6 times? Vexthor's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Nuclear weapons, High Admiral. We invented them 70 years before we achieved FTL travel. We built enough to kill every human on Earth a dozen times over. We aimed them at each other for decades. We came within minutes of using them on several occasions. That is not unusual. Many species go through such phases. But most don't survive them, Chen said. Most either destroy themselves or give up weapons entirely. Humans did neither. We learned to live with the knowledge that we could end our own existence at any moment. We learned to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Your point? My point is that humans are very, very good at being paranoid. We joined the Federation with hope and friendship in our hearts, but we also remembered that the universe is dangerous, so we took precautions. What kind of precautions? Chen smiled again. The classified kind. Vexthor stared at him for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are an interesting species, Ambassador Chen. I look forward to seeing if your precautions are real or imaginary. So do I, High Admiral. So do I. Chen left the chamber and made his way back to the human embassy. It was a small building compared to the massive structures the older species maintained, but it was functional and secure. He went to his office and locked the door. Then he opened a secure channel to Earth. The communication was routed through 17 different relay stations to prevent interception. After a moment, a face appeared on the screen. Fleet Admiral Sarah Kobayashi looked exactly like what she was. A career military officer who had seen too much and slept too little. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun. Her eyes were dark and sharp. She wore the dress uniform of the United Earth Space Navy, though few people outside Earth knew that organization existed. Ambassador, she said, I watched the council session. That went about as expected. They think we're helpless children, Admiral. Good. Let them think that. Chen leaned back in his chair. Are we ready? We've been ready for 3 years. The Indomitable is fully operational. All combat groups are at staging positions. Crews are trained and equipped. We're just waiting for the word. The Corinthian fleet will reach Proxima Centauri in approximately 48 hours. Our colonies there have begun evacuation, but there are still 3 million humans in the system. We won't let them down, Kobayashi said firmly. I know, but Sarah, once we do this, there's no going back. The secret will be out. The galaxy will know what we've been building. They'll know we're not sheep waiting for slaughter, Kobayashi said. They'll know that humanity takes care of its own. Chen nodded. Then I'll issue the authorization. Stand by for Protocol Lazarus. Standing by. Chen took a deep breath. For 15 years, Earth had played the role of the grateful newcomer. They had accepted technology, learned from older species, and smiled while being patronized. But the entire time, in the dark reaches of the outer solar system, they had been building. The Kuiper Belt was perfect for hiding construction. It was vast, cold, and full of debris that scrambled sensors. Over the course of a decade, Earth had mined asteroids, built shipyards, and constructed a fleet that would make the galaxy reassess everything they thought they knew about humanity. The project had cost trillions. Every nation on Earth had contributed. Resources had been diverted. Scientists had worked in secret. Engineers had solved problems that should have been impossible. And at the center of it all was the Indomitable, a supercarrier 12 kilometers long, a ship that incorporated human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology, a vessel carrying enough firepower to level a continent. And it wasn't alone. Chen activated his secure console and entered his authorization codes. Then he typed a simple message, Protocol Lazarus. Authorization Omega-7 execute, he sent it. Somewhere in the cold darkness of the Kuiper Belt, ancient systems came to life. Lights flickered on in a structure the size of a small moon. Thousands of personnel moved to their stations. Ships that had been in hiding for years began final preparations. On Earth, in the depths of the NORAD command center buried under Cheyenne Mountain, displays lit up. Officers who had been waiting for this moment sat up straighter. Phones rang in government buildings across the planet. Admiral Kobayashi appeared on Chen's screen again. Authorization received and confirmed. The Indomitable is beginning deployment sequence. Estimated time to full operational status, 6 hours. Then God be with you, Admiral. God, Buddha, Allah, and every other deity we can get, Kobayashi said with a tight smile. We're going to need all the help we can get. The screen went dark. Chen sat in silence for a moment. Then he stood and walked to the window. Outside he could see the alien city stretching to the horizon. Beautiful spires and floating gardens, the achievements of civilizations thousands of years old. They thought humans were primitive. They thought Earth was weak. They were about to learn different. Chen thought about his grandfather, who had fought in the last war on Earth before the world unified. The old man had told him something once, something that Chen had never forgotten. The most dangerous warrior, his grandfather had said, is not the one who has never known fear. It is the one who has known fear, has known loss, and has decided to stand anyway. Humanity had known fear. They had stood at the edge of extinction more than once. They had looked into the abyss and seen their own reflection, and they had decided to be ready next time. Chen touched the window. Come on then, Corinthians, he whispered. Come and see what a backwater species can do when you threaten their children. Outside, alien pedestrians walked past, oblivious to what was coming. They had no idea that the balance of galactic power was about to shift. They would learn soon enough. The alarm started at 0300 hours station time. Commander Rachel Torres was already awake when it happened. She had been watching the sensor displays for the past 6 hours, waiting for the inevitable. Contact, Ensign Park shouted from the sensor station. Multiple FTL signatures emerging at the edge of the system. Counting, 50, 80, 120 vessels. Ma'am, they're still coming through. Rachel stood up from her chair on the bridge of the UES Defiant. Her destroyer was one of 40 human ships positioned throughout the Proxima Centauri system. They were the official Earth fleet. The ships that everyone knew about. They were about to face over 300 Corinthian warships. Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations. Send the warning to the civilian stations. Evacuation protocol is now active. Around her, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Red lights bathed the bridge. The ship's engines hummed to full power. Weapon systems came online. Final count, ma'am. 312 enemy vessels. Battleship class, cruisers, and destroyers. They're forming up in attack formation. How long until they reach the colony? At current speed, 4 hours. But ma'am, there's no way we can hold them off for that long. We don't have to hold them off, Rachel said quietly. We just have to slow them down. The Corinthian fleet looked like a swarm of angry insects on the tactical display. Their ships were biological constructs, grown rather than built. They were bone white with black markings, and they pulsed with an eerie bioluminescence. Each one was several times larger than the Defiant. Commander Torres knew the statistics. She had studied them for weeks. A single Corinthian battleship could destroy her ship with one shot. The shields on those vessels could absorb a nuclear blast. Their weapons could boil away a ship's armor in seconds. But humans had something the Corinthians didn't expect. They had desperation, creativity, and a willingness to do whatever it took. Communications. Send to all ships. Execute Plan Delta 7. Mark my countdown. 3, 2, 1. Execute. Across the system, the human fleet split into small groups. Instead of forming a traditional battle line, they scattered. Destroyers and frigates accelerated in different directions, moving at angles the enemy wouldn't expect. The Corinthians had never fought humans before. They didn't know how humans fought. Enemy fleet is accelerating. They're confused, ma'am. Their formation is becoming disorganized. They expected us to meet them head-on. Good, Rachel said. Helm, bring us about. Heading 270 Mark 15. Flank speed. The Defiant wheeled through space. Her fusion engines burned bright blue. Rachel felt the artificial gravity compensate for the acceleration, but just barely. Her stomach did a small flip. Weapons prepare torpedo spread. Pattern echo, wait for my mark. Torpedoes ready, ma'am. Rachel watched the tactical display. The Corinthian fleet was trying to reorganize. Their battleships were moving to the center, cruisers forming a protective screen. It was standard tactics. Textbook formations that had worked for them across 17 systems. But Rachel wasn't following a textbook. She was following plans that had been drawn up by some of the best tactical minds on Earth. People who had studied every battle the Corinthians had ever fought. People who had found patterns and weaknesses. Range 200,000 kilometers. They're launching fighters, ma'am. Fire torpedoes. All tubes. Then get us out of here. Full evasive. The Defiant shuddered as 12 torpedoes streaked away from her tubes. They were simple weapons by galactic standards. Chemical propellant. Nuclear warheads. The kind of thing that most aliens considered obsolete. But they were fast, hard to track, and there were a lot of them. Across the system, every human ship fired at once. 480 torpedoes raced toward the Corinthian fleet. The enemy's point defense systems opened up, tracking and destroying incoming warheads. Bright flashes marked successful intercepts, but not all of them. Not nearly all of them. 16 torpedoes got through. They detonated against the shields of Corinthian cruisers and destroyers. The nuclear explosions looked like tiny suns blooming in the darkness. Shields flared and failed. 2 cruisers took direct hits and began venting atmosphere. Damage report on enemy vessels. 2 destroyers destroyed, 3 cruisers heavily damaged. But ma'am, they're launching a full spread of return fire. Rachel gripped her chair. All power to engines. Get us behind that asteroid cluster, now. The Defiant dove, her helmsman pushing the ship to her limits. Behind them, plasma bolts and energy beams turned the space they had just occupied into a death zone. One shot grazed their shields. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. Shield generator 2 is offline. Hull breach on deck 4. Seal it off. Keep moving. The destroyer slipped behind a massive asteroid, using it as cover. Around the system, the rest of the human fleet was doing the same thing. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to survive and buy time. On the colony world below, 3 million humans were loading onto every ship that could fly. Transport vessels, cargo haulers, even private yachts. Anything with an engine and life support. Major David Kim stood in the spaceport command center watching the evacuation. He was a colonial marine, one of 500 defending the port. Behind him, families rushed toward loading ramps. Children crying. Parents carrying too much luggage. Elderly people being helped by younger volunteers. How long do we have? He asked. The fleet says they can give us maybe 6 hours before the Corinthians reach orbit. Maybe. 6 hours. David looked at the crowds. There were still 200,000 people waiting to board ships. They needed at least 12 hours. Then we'll hold the port for 12 hours, he said. His sergeant looked at him. Sir, the fleet is getting torn apart up there. If the Corinthians make orbit, we won't last 5 minutes. Then we better make those 5 minutes count. Above them, the battle raged. Commander Torres and her fellow captains were fighting a running battle across the entire system. They used every trick they could think of. They hid in asteroid fields. They fired missiles on delayed timers, letting the enemy think they had missed, then detonating when enemy ships passed by. They used electronic warfare to spoof sensor readings. They even deliberately damaged their own ships to leave false trails. It was working. Sort of. The Corinthian fleet was slowed down, confused and angry, but it was still coming, and human ships were dying. The UES Valiant took a direct hit from a battleship's main gun. The destroyer simply ceased to exist, 500 crew members gone in a flash of light. The UES Vigilant rammed an enemy cruiser when her weapons failed. The impact destroyed both ships. The UES Tenacious fought 3 enemy destroyers to a standstill, then self-destructed when her hull failed, taking 2 of them with her. Rachel watched the tactical display and felt each loss like a knife in her chest. Those were her people, her fellow commanders, friends she had trained with at the academy. Ma'am, we've lost 12 ships. The remaining fleet is down to 60% combat effectiveness. How much time have we bought? 4 hours, 17 minutes, not enough. Not nearly enough. Rachel was about to order another torpedo spread when her communications officer called out. Commander, we're receiving a tight beam transmission. Command frequency. Encryption Omega level. Rachel's breath caught. Omega level. That was the highest security classification Earth had. Only a handful of people had access to those codes. Put it through. Private channel. A window opened on her display. Admiral Kobayashi's face appeared. She looked tired but determined. Commander Torres, I've been watching your performance. You've done excellent work. We're dying up here, Admiral. I know, and I'm sorry, but you've bought us the time we needed. Help is coming. The Federation said 72 hours. I'm not talking about the Federation, Kobayashi said. Hold your position for 90 more minutes. Can you do that? Rachel looked at her tactical display. 90 minutes, with what was left of her fleet, against an enemy that outnumbered them 10-1. We'll do it or die trying, Admiral. Let's hope it doesn't come to dying. Kobayashi out. The transmission ended. Rachel looked at her bridge crew. They were young. The oldest officer on the bridge was barely 30. They had signed up to explore the galaxy, not to fight in a desperate battle against impossible odds. But they didn't look scared. They looked determined. You heard the Admiral, Rachel said. We hold for 90 minutes. I want every trick we haven't used yet. I want every weapon we can jury-rig. I want mines, drones, and anything else we can throw at them. We're going to give these bastards the worst 90 minutes of their lives. Yes, ma'am. The bridge crew responded as one. The Defiant turned back toward the enemy. On the Corinthian flagship, Warlord Drakmor watched the battle with growing frustration. His fleet should have swept through this system in less than an hour. These primitive humans with their chemical rockets and fusion engines shouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. Yet here he was 4 hours later still fighting. True, the human fleet was almost destroyed. True, his forces had taken minimal casualties. But the humans were annoying, like insects that refused to die no matter how many times you stepped on them. Status of the enemy fleet? He demanded. Down to 28 vessels, Warlord, all showing damage. But they continued to resist. Where are the Federation reinforcements? Not expected for another 68 hours. Drakmor's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. The Federation had abandoned the humans. He had expected nothing less. The mighty Galactic Federation always promised protection, but when the time came, they prioritized their own species. Open a channel to the human colony. A moment later, a face appeared on his screen. A human in some kind of military uniform. Drakmor didn't bother learning his name. Human, Drakmor said in heavily accented Standard Galactic. Your fleet is destroyed. Your people are helpless. The Federation will not save you. I offer you this one chance. Surrender your colonies. Accept Corinthian rule, or we will burn your worlds and enslave your survivors. The human was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. Warlord Drakmor, I am Major David Kim of the Colonial Marines. I speak for the 3 million humans in this system. And my answer is, go to hell. The transmission ended. Drakmor stared at the blank screen. Then he laughed. It was a harsh, grating sound. I admire their spirit. Foolish but admirable. Very well. We will teach them the price of defiance. All ships advance. When we reach the planet, begin bombardment of military targets. Make it hurt. The Corinthian fleet surged forward. Rachel saw them coming. There was nowhere left to run. Her remaining ships formed a last defensive line between the enemy and the colony world. This is it, she said quietly. All ships prepare for final engagement. It's been an honor serving with you. Acknowledgements came back from the other ships, brief, professional, ready. The Corinthians opened fire. And then, in the darkness at the edge of the system, something changed. Sensors went crazy. Space itself seemed to tear open. Energy readings spiked to levels that shouldn't be possible. "What the hell is that?" Someone screamed. Rachel stared at her display. Something massive was emerging from a point in space that sensors had always read as empty. Something huge. Something impossible. Something that made the entire Corinthian fleet look small. "My God," Rachel whispered. They actually built it. The UES Indomitable had arrived. Admiral Sarah Kobayashi stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched her crew work. The bridge was enormous, larger than a football field. 300 personnel sat at their stations, monitoring everything from weapons to life support. Holographic displays filled the air, showing tactical data, ship status, and the battle, happening light years away. "Final systems, check," she ordered. "Weapon systems online and green," called out Commander Jackson from the weapons station. "Shield generators at full power," reported Lieutenant Chen from Defense. "Reactor output nominal. All 4 zero-point generators operating at 98% efficiency. Navigation has a clean plot. Ready to jump on your command, Admiral." Kobayashi nodded. Around her, the bridge crew sat with perfect posture. They wore crisp uniforms, navy blue with gold trim. Every person here had trained for 5 years for this moment. They were the best Earth had to offer. Status of the battle group: all vessels report ready. Carrier Group 7 is standing by. 20 heavy cruisers in formation. 4 subsidiary carriers prepared to launch. Strike craft are loaded and pilots are in their cockpits. Kobayashi walked to the forward viewport. It wasn't really a window. At 12 kilometers long, the Indomitable was too large for traditional viewports. What looked like a window was actually a display showing the view outside, but it served the same purpose. Before her stretched the vast construction facility that had been her ship's home for the past 8 years. The structure was built into a large asteroid in the Kuiper Belt, hollowed out and expanded until it was more space station than rock. Hundreds of workers had lived here, building the Indomitable in secret. The project had nearly bankrupted Earth. Every nation had contributed. The United States, China, the European Union, India, Brazil, Russia, all of them had poured resources into this single effort. Scientists had worked 18-hour days. Engineers had solved problems that seemed impossible. And slowly, piece by piece, the greatest warship humanity had ever built took shape. She was 12 kilometers of human ingenuity. Her hull was constructed from materials that didn't exist in nature, created in zero-gravity foundries and reinforced with force fields. Her weapons combined human creativity with alien technology traded for or reverse-engineered from crashed ships. Her shields used quantum manipulation techniques that even the Federation thought were theoretical. And she was about to prove that Earth was not as helpless as everyone thought. Communications. Open a channel to Earth Command. A screen appeared. General Martinez sat in the NORAD command center, surrounded by staff officers and displays showing data from around the solar system. "Admiral," he said, "the Corinthians have broken through to Proxima. Our fleet has fought beyond all expectations, but they can't hold much longer." "I know, sir. We're ready to jump." Martinez leaned forward. "Sarah, once you do this, there's no hiding anymore. The galaxy will know. Some of them won't be happy. Let them be unhappy, sir. We're not going to stand by and watch our people die." "Agreed. You have full authorization. Bring our people home, Admiral." "Yes, sir." Kobayashi out. The screen went dark. Sarah turned to her crew. "This is it, people. For the past 15 years, Earth has played nice with the galaxy. We've smiled and learned and pretended to be grateful children learning from our elders. But we're not children. We're survivors. Our species has been through wars, plagues, disasters, and near extinctions. We're still here because we adapt, we endure, and we protect our own." She paused, looking at the faces around her, young and old, men and women, every ethnicity Earth had to offer, united in purpose. Today, the galaxy learns that humanity is not prey. We're not victims. We're not weak. Today, we show them what humans can do when you threaten our families. All hands prepare for jump. Take us to Proxima Centauri. Jump calculations locked in. Navigation reported. Distance 4.2 light-years. Jump window in 30 seconds. All ships report ready to jump, communications added. Power to jump drives, Kobayashi ordered. The Indomitable hummed. Deep in her core, the jump drives activated. They used technology that Earth had learned from the Federation, but improved on, modified, made better. The drives created a bubble in space-time, allowing the ship to cross vast distances in seconds. But creating a jump field for a ship this size required enormous power. The 4 zero-point energy reactors went to maximum output. Lights flickered. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jumping now. Reality twisted, space folded, and the Indomitable vanished from the Kuiper belt. In Proxima Centauri, Commander Rachel Torres was preparing to die. Her destroyer had taken 3 direct hits. Half her crew was dead. Shields were gone. Engines were failing. But she kept fighting. "Fire everything we have left," she ordered. "If we're going down, we're taking some of them with us." The Defiant fired her last torpedoes. They streaked toward the nearest enemy cruiser, and then Rachel's sensor officer screamed, "Ma'am!" Spatial distortion at grid 773. Energy readings are off the scale. "Something's coming through." Rachel looked at her displays. A point in space was glowing, growing brighter. Energy levels that made no sense. A jump signature larger than anything she had ever seen. Space tore open. The Indomitable emerged. Rachel had seen the plans. She had been briefed on the project. She had known intellectually that Earth was building a supercarrier, but knowing something and seeing it are 2 different things. The ship was massive, 12 kilometers from bow to stern. Her hull was dark gray, studded with weapons emplacements and launch bays. Shield generators glowed along her flanks. Engine arrays at her rear burned with blue-white fire. She looked like a moving fortress, a city that flew through space. "Mother of God," Rachel whispered. But the Indomitable wasn't alone. Behind her came the rest of the battle group. 20 heavy cruisers, each one 3 kilometers long. 4 subsidiary carriers bristling with fighter craft, destroyers, frigates, support vessels. An entire fleet had just appeared out of nowhere. On the Corinthian flagship, alarms were screaming. Warlord Drakmore stared at his displays in disbelief. "What is that?" he demanded. "Sensors cannot get a clear reading, Warlord. The ship is too large. Energy signatures are impossible. Their shields are using technology we don't recognize. How did they hide something that size? How did our intelligence not know about this?" Nobody had an answer. Drakmore watched as the human fleet deployed. The massive carrier was launching ships, hundreds of them. Small strike craft poured from launch bays like angry hornets. They formed up in perfect squadrons, moving with precision that spoke of extensive training. "Warlord, we're being hailed, audio only." "Put it through." A human voice spoke. Female. Calm. Professional. "Corinthian vessels. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Kobayashi of the United Earth Space Navy. You are in violation of Federation space. You have attacked our colonies without provocation. You have killed our people. I am here to inform you that this ends now. You have one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that continues hostile actions will be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to comply." Drakmore couldn't believe what he was hearing. This human was demanding his surrender? He commanded over 300 warships. He had conquered 17 systems. He had defeated enemies far more powerful than these primitives. He started laughing. His crew looked at him nervously, but he couldn't stop. The absurdity of it was too much. "Human," he said when he could speak again, "I admire your audacity. But you are outnumbered. 300 ships against 1. I don't care how large your vessel is, you cannot win. I offer you a chance instead. Turn around. Leave. And I will allow you to live." There was a pause. Then the human spoke again. "I'm sorry you feel that way. All ships, weapons-free, engage." What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The Indomitable opened fire. Her main guns were called magnetic accelerator cannons, MAX for short. They used electromagnetic fields to launch projectiles at tremendous speeds. The projectiles were solid tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons. They moved at a significant fraction of light speed. The first MAC round hit a Corinthian battleship amidships. The kinetic energy was so enormous that the ship's shields might as well not have existed. The tungsten rod punched through the hull, through the ship's interior, and out the other side. The battleship broke in half. The Indomitable had 12 Mac guns. She fired 6 of them in the first salvo. 6 Corinthian capital ships ceased to exist in a span of seconds. Evasive maneuvers, Drakmor screamed. Return fire. All ships. Target that carrier. The Corinthian fleet tried to respond. They fired plasma cannons and energy beams. Missiles and torpedoes streaked toward the human ship, and hit shields that simply absorbed the damage. The Indomitable's defense grid was layered. The outermost layer used gravitational manipulation to deflect incoming fire. The second layer was electromagnetic shielding that dispersed energy weapons. The third layer was ablative armor that could regenerate. And if all that failed, the hull itself was reinforced with materials that could withstand a nuclear blast. The Corinthian weapons were designed to fight Federation ships. They had never encountered anything like this. Meanwhile, the human strike craft engaged. 500 fighters swept into the Corinthian formation. They were small, fast, and heavily armed. Each one was piloted by a human who had trained for years in simulators and live exercises. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera sat in the cockpit of his fighter and felt alive. He had been born for this. Flying, fighting, pushing his aircraft to the limit. His fighter was called a Raptor. It was sleek, angular, and deadly. "Red Squadron on me," he called. "Attack pattern Delta. Target the cruisers." His squadron followed him in, 12 fighters moving as one. They dove toward a Corinthian cruiser, their weapons blazing. Railguns fired streams of high-velocity projectiles. Missiles locked onto target points. The cruiser tried to track them, but the Raptors were too fast, too maneuverable. They wove through defensive fire like dancers. Marcus rolled, dove, climbed, always moving, never staying still. Target locked, Fox 3. His missile launched. It was a smart weapon, capable of adjusting course mid-flight. It jinked around, point defense fire, and slammed into the cruiser's engine section. The explosion was spectacular. Hit confirmed, 1 cruiser damaged. All around the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human fighters swarmed the Corinthian fleet. They targeted weapon systems, engines, shield generators. They attacked from unexpected angles. They worked together with a level of coordination that shocked the enemy. The Corinthian fighters tried to respond, but they were used to fighting other capital ships. Fighting small, fast, aggressive craft was different. The human pilots had studied every engagement the Corinthians had ever been in. They knew their tactics, their patterns, their weaknesses, and they exploited them ruthlessly. On the Indomitable, Admiral Kobayashi watched the battle unfold. Her ships were performing perfectly, exactly as planned, exactly as trained. Status report: enemy fleet is in disarray. 15 capital ships destroyed, 23 heavily damaged. Enemy fighters are withdrawing. Our strike craft reports 73 confirmed kills with only 5 losses. Good. Have the cruiser group move to flank position. I want them to cut off any escape routes. And prepare the maxi guns for another salvo. Target their battleships. The heavy cruisers moved into position. They weren't as large as the Indomitable, but they were still formidable. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. They formed a wall, blocking the Corinthian retreat. The trap was closing. Drakmor watched his fleet die and realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had underestimated the humans. He had assumed they were weak, unprepared, easy prey. He had been wrong. These humans fought like they had nothing to lose. They used tactics he had never seen. Their technology was beyond what any intelligence report had suggested. And their ship, that massive carrier, it was turning the tide of battle single-handedly. "Warlord, we've lost 40 ships. Damage estimates on the rest range from minimal to catastrophic. If we stay here, they'll destroy us." Drakmor's pride warred with his survival instinct. He was a conqueror. He had never retreated, never surrendered. But he had also never faced an enemy like this. "Open a channel to the human admiral," he said quietly. Admiral Kobayashi studied the face of Warlord Drakmor on her screen. The Corinthian leader looked exactly like what he was, a predator who had suddenly found himself prey. His elongated skull was covered in bony ridges. His eyes were black and deep-set. His teeth, visible when he spoke, were sharp and numerous. He looked dangerous. But right now he also looked worried. "Human Admiral," Drakmor said, "I underestimated your species. This was unwise. Perhaps we can discuss terms. Terms? Kobayashi kept her voice neutral. What terms did you offer the 17 systems you conquered? What terms did you give to the billions who died in your invasions? That was different. They were weak? Kobayashi interrupted. Is that what you were going to say? They were weak, so they deserve to be conquered? Let me tell you something about weakness, warlord. On Earth we have a saying, don't mistake kindness for weakness. We came to the galaxy in peace. We joined the Federation with open hearts. We accepted their help and guidance. But we never forgot that the universe is dangerous. She leaned forward. So while everyone thought we were primitive and helpless, we were building, learning, preparing. Because we know what happens to species that can't defend themselves. We've seen it happen throughout history, and we decided a long time ago that it wouldn't happen to us. Drakmore's expression shifted. You kept all of this secret. For years, how? The Kuiper Belt is vast and dark. Sensor readings are difficult in all that debris, and everyone assumed we were too primitive to build anything worth noticing. Kobayashi smiled thinly. You know what they say about assumptions. So what now? You destroy my fleet? Kill us all? That depends on you. I gave you a chance to surrender. You laughed at me. My offer still stands, but the terms have changed. Power down all weapons immediately. Shut down your engines. Allow my ships to board and take your crews into custody. Any ship that resists will be destroyed without further warning. You have 30 seconds to decide. Drakmore's face twisted with anger. You cannot hold us forever. The Dominion will send more fleets. Larger ones. They will come for revenge. Let them come, Kobayashi said coldly, and they'll learn the same lesson you're learning now. Earth is not a victim. We're not easy prey. We're the species that survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own stupidity. If your Dominion wants a fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget. She glanced at a display. 20 seconds, warlord. In his command center, Drakmore looked at his officers. They waited for his decision. He could see the fear in their eyes. They had started this day expecting an easy victory. Now they were facing annihilation. Pride was a luxury he could no longer afford. Stand down, he said quietly. All ships power down weapons. Comply with their demands. Across the Corinthian fleet, ships began shutting down their systems. Weapons went offline. Engines cut to minimal power. It was the signal of defeat, and every crew member felt the shame of it. But they were alive. That was something. On the Indomitable's bridge, cheers erupted. Officers stood and applauded. Some hugged each other. The tension that had filled the bridge for hours finally broke. Kobayashi allowed herself a small smile. Communications send to all ships. Boarding parties are authorized. Take the Corinthian crews into custody. Be professional. Be respectful. But be thorough. I want every weapon disabled and every database downloaded. Yes, ma'am. And someone get Commander Torres on the line. Her people deserve to know what they helped accomplish. A moment later, Rachel Torres's face appeared on the screen. She looked exhausted. Her uniform was torn and dirty. There was a bandage on her forehead, but she was smiling. Admiral, it's good to see you. Commander, status of your ship? The Defiant is barely holding together, ma'am. We lost 60% of our crew, but we're still flying, barely. You bought us the time we needed, you and every ship in your fleet. Earth owes you a debt we can never repay. Rachel shook her head. We were just doing our jobs, Admiral. But I have to ask, where the hell did all this come from? I knew about the Indomitable project, but the rest? Those cruisers? The carriers? The strike craft? We've been busy, Kobayashi said. Everything you see here was built over the past 8 years. 3 orbital shipyards in the Kuiper Belt. 50,000 workers, resources mined from asteroids and outer system moons. We built an entire fleet in secret. The Federation is going to lose their minds when they find out. They already are. I'm receiving messages from every major government. The Council wants an emergency session. Ambassador Chen is getting calls from 100 different species. It's going to be an interesting few days. Rachel laughed, then winced. I need to see a doctor. And sleep for about a week. Granted. Good work, Commander. Kobayashi out. The screen went dark. Kobayashi turned to her executive officer, Commander Jackson. He was a tall man with gray hair and 30 years of military experience. He had been with the project since the beginning. Marcus, status of the battle group. All ships report minimal damage. We lost 8 strike craft in combat. Casualties are low. The Corinthians are cooperating with boarding procedures. First reports indicate their databases contain intelligence on Dominion military deployments, ship designs, and strategic plans. Good. Have intelligence start analyzing it. I want to know everything about the Dominion, their strengths, weaknesses, and intentions. Because this isn't over. Drakmore was right about one thing. The Dominion will respond to this defeat. Do you think they'll attack Earth? I think they'll seriously consider it. Which is why we need to make sure they understand the cost. Kobayashi looked at the tactical display. The Corinthian fleet was scattered across the system, powerless and defeated. But first we have people to rescue. Contact Major Kim at the colony. Let him know the system is secure. On the colony world, Major David Kim received the message with relief so intense it almost hurt. He had been preparing to fight to the last man. Now he could tell his Marines to stand down. Attention all personnel. The fleet has secured the system. The Corinthians have surrendered. Evacuation is no longer necessary. Repeat, evacuation is no longer necessary. We're safe. Around him, people started crying. Marines who had been ready to die hugged each other. Civilians who had been rushing to escape ships stopped and simply stood, processing the information. Children who had been scared asked their parents what it meant. It means we're going to be okay, one father told his daughter. It means Earth protected us. David walked outside the command center. The sun was setting over the colony city. Buildings stretched to the horizon. Parks where children played, schools, hospitals, homes. 3 million people lived here. 3 million people who had been hours away from death or slavery. Now they were safe. He looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, was a ship so large it defied imagination. A ship built by humans, crewed by humans, commanded by humans. A ship that had just defeated an enemy fleet 300 strong. We did it, he whispered. We actually did it. In the Galactic Council chambers, chaos reigned. Representatives from 100 worlds shouted at each other. Some demanded explanations. Others wanted to know how Earth had hidden such a massive construction project. A few were already proposing sanctions against humanity for deception. Ambassador Chen Wei sat quietly in the human section and waited for the noise to die down. Eventually, High Admiral Vexthor managed to restore order. Ambassador Chen, Vexthor said. His voice was carefully controlled, but Chen could hear the anger underneath. Perhaps you would care to explain how Earth constructed a 12-kilometer warship without anyone's knowledge. Chen stood. High Admiral, fellow delegates, I understand your surprise, but I must point out that Earth has done nothing illegal. We have violated no treaties, broken no laws. We simply took measures to ensure our own defense. By hiding a fleet in your outer system, someone shouted. By preparing for the possibility that the Federation could not protect us, Chen corrected. And as we have just seen, that concern was justified. The Corinthians invaded our space. They attacked our colonies. Where was the Federation fleet? Where was the protection we were promised? The chamber fell silent. The evacuation protocols called for our colonies to be evacuated first because we were considered most vulnerable, Chen continued. In other words, the Federation had already decided that humanity could not defend itself. We disagreed, and we took steps to prove otherwise. Councillor Thane spoke from his sealed chamber. You lied to us. You claimed your military was limited to 43 vessels. We have 43 registered military vessels, Chen said. We never claimed that was our entire military capability. You assumed. There is a difference. Semantics. No, Councillor. Accuracy. When Earth joined the Federation, we agreed to certain transparency requirements. We have met all of them. The vessels in question were constructed in Earth's sovereign territory. They used technologies that Earth developed or legally acquired. We have broken no rules. Vexthor leaned forward. Ambassador, your species has fundamentally altered the balance of power in this region of space. You have demonstrated military capabilities that rival some of the oldest civilizations in the Federation. And you did it all in secret. Surely you can understand our concern. I understand it completely, Chen said, and I would be concerned too if I were in your position. But let me ask you something, High Admiral. If another species in this chamber had the ability to protect themselves but chose to hide it, would you consider that aggressive? Or would you consider it prudent? Vexthor didn't answer immediately. His forearms crossed in a complex gesture that Chen had learned meant deep thought. It would depend, the Admiral finally said, on their intentions. Then let me be clear about Earth's intentions. We want peace. We want cooperation. We want to be good members of the Galactic Federation, but we also want to survive. We have seen what happens to species that cannot defend themselves. History is full of civilizations that trusted others to protect them and paid the price. Chen's voice grew stronger. Earth has been through dark times. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. We know what it means to face extinction. We swore we would never be helpless again. So yes, we built a fleet. Yes, we kept it secret. And yes, we will use it to protect our people. But we have no desire to conquer anyone. No plans to invade our neighbors. No ambition except to live in peace and be left alone. Pretty word, someone muttered. True words, Chen shot back. And I have proof. Admiral Kobayashi could have destroyed the entire Corinthian fleet. She had the firepower. Instead, she offered them surrender. She took prisoners rather than killing everyone. Does that sound like a species with aggressive intentions? Vexthor nodded slowly. It does not. But Ambassador, your actions today have consequences. The galaxy has been watching. Right now, a dozen major powers are reassessing their intelligence on Earth. They are wondering what else you might be hiding. Some of them are afraid. Fear can be useful, Chen said, but it can also be destructive. We hope the galaxy will choose to see this as evidence of human capability, rather than human aggression. We defended our people, nothing more. And if the Corinthian Dominion retaliates, then we'll defend ourselves again. And we hope the Federation will stand with us. The chamber erupted in noise again. Some delegates supported Earth, others demanded restrictions. A few called for investigations. But Chen could see that the dynamic had changed. Before today, humanity had been dismissed, patronized, treated like children. Now they were being treated like a threat. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than being ignored. High Admiral Vexthor raised a hand for silence. The Council will take this matter under advisement. We will meet again in 3 days to discuss the implications. Ambassador Chen, I expect a full briefing on Earth's military capabilities. High Admiral, I can provide general information, but specific details remain classified. Still keeping secrets? Some secrets, Chen said with a slight smile, are worth keeping. As the session ended and delegates filed out, Vexthor approached Chen's seat. The massive alien looked down at the small human. You played us, Vexthor said. All of us. For 15 years. We prepared ourselves, Chen corrected. There's a difference. Is there? You knew we underestimated you. You encouraged it. Yes, Chen admitted. We did. Because underestimation gave us time. Time to learn. Time to build. Time to become strong enough that no one would dare attack us. Vexthor made a sound that might have been respect. It was well done. Risky but well done. Your Admiral Kobayashi is a skilled commander. And your ships. He shook his head. Impressive. Very impressive. Thank you, High Admiral. But Chen, you should know. Not everyone in the galaxy will react as I have. Some will see this as proof that humans are dangerous. They will argue for restrictions, sanctions, perhaps worse. Let them try, Chen said quietly. Earth has shown we can defend ourselves. Now we need to show that we're worth having as allies rather than enemies. Vexthor studied him for a long moment. You know, when we first met, I thought you were simply a clever diplomat. Now I realize you're much more than that. What were you before you became an ambassador? Chen smiled. That, High Admiral, is classified. 3 weeks after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, the Galactic Council reconvened. This time the atmosphere was different. The usual casual chatter was absent. Delegates arrived early and spoke in hushed voices. Many glanced at the human section, where Ambassador Chen Wei sat calmly reading a data pad. High Admiral Vexthor called the session to order. We are here to discuss the recent events at Proxima Centauri and their implications for the Federation. First, let me present the official report from our military observers. A holographic display appeared above the center of the chamber. It showed the battle in detail. The desperate fight by the human destroyer fleet, the arrival of the Indomitable, the defeat of the Corinthian Armada. The delegates watched in silence. Seeing it laid out like this with analysis and commentary made it even more impressive. The human carrier had taken on 300 warships and won decisively. Casualties on the human side were minimal. The Corinthians had lost over 60 ships destroyed and the rest captured. As you can see, Vexthor continued, Earth's military capabilities were significantly underestimated. Our intelligence services failed to detect a construction project of massive scale. This represents a fundamental failure that we are working to address. How did they hide it? Demanded a Dracorian representative. We have the best sensor networks in the galaxy. The Kuiper Belt, Vexthor explained, is approximately 50 times more distant from Earth's sun than their home world. It's filled with debris that interferes with sensors. The construction facility was built inside a large asteroid, further masking its signature. And Earth used various techniques to disguise energy readings and communications. In other words, said Counselor Thane, they actively deceived us. Chen stood. Counselor, Earth took measures to maintain operational security. This is standard practice for any military project. We did not lie. We simply did not volunteer information that was not requested. A fine distinction. An important distinction. The Federation encourages member species to maintain defensive capabilities. We did exactly that. The fact that our capabilities exceeded expectations is not a violation of any law or treaty. A Vexillian delegate spoke up. But what about the technology? Our experts have analyzed the battle recordings. Your ship uses weapons and shields that combine technologies from multiple sources. Some of it appears to be reverse-engineered from systems we shared with you. We learned from what we were taught, Chen said. Earth has always been good at taking existing concepts and improving them. This is not theft. This is innovation. Some might call it weapons proliferation. Some might call it survival. The debate continued for hours. Some species supported Earth's right to defend itself. Others worried about the precedent it set. If one new species could build such a fleet in secret, what stopped others from doing the same? Finally, after much discussion, Vexthor called for a vote. The question before the Council is simple. Does Earth's construction of a military fleet in secret violate Federation laws or principles? All in favor of sanctions against Earth indicate now. Chen watched the vote count. His expression remained neutral, but inside he was calculating. If enough species voted for sanctions, Earth's position in the Federation would become untenable. They might have to leave. That would mean isolation, possible conflict, and the end of peaceful cooperation. The vote finished. 217 species had voted. 83 voted for sanctions. 134 voted against. Chen allowed himself to breathe. They had won. Barely. The motion fails, Vexthor announced. Earth will not face sanctions. However, this council recognizes that the situation requires discussion. Ambassador Chen, the Federation Security Council has extended an invitation. We would like Earth to join as a permanent member. The chamber went silent. A permanent Security Council seat was something that only the oldest, most powerful species held. There were currently 15 permanent members. Earth would be the 16th. And the youngest by several thousand years. Chen stood slowly. Hi, Admiral, the Security Council. Earth has been a Federation member for only 15 years. Yes, Vexthor said, but you have demonstrated the capability and will to defend Federation space. The Corinthian Dominion is a threat to us all. Your actions at Proxima stopped their expansion. That deserves recognition. It's also a practical matter, added Counselor Thane. Like it or not, Earth is now a major military power in this region. It makes sense to have you at the table when security decisions are made. Chen nodded. I will transmit this offer to my government. I'm certain they will give it serious consideration. There is one condition, Vexthor said. The Federation requires a full disclosure of Earth's military assets. Not specific technical details, but general capabilities. How many ships do you have? What are their functions? We need to know what we're working with. Chen had expected this. I am authorized to provide that information. Earth currently operates 4 supercarriers of the Indomitable class, 20 heavy cruisers, 48 destroyers, 16 frigates, 4 subsidiary carriers, and approximately 2,000 strike craft. We also have extensive orbital defense platforms around Earth and our major colonies. The numbers caused a stir. That was a fleet size comparable to some species that had been spacefaring for millennia. 4 supercarriers, someone said. You built 4 of those things. We built 3. The 4th is currently under construction and should be operational within 6 months. We also have plans for expanding the fleet as needed. How did you pay for all this? Earth has a unified global economy. When we decided to build this fleet, every nation contributed. We diverted resources from other projects, mined asteroids, developed new manufacturing techniques. It required sacrifice, but our people understood the necessity. Vexthor studied Chen carefully. You were planning for war before you even joined the Federation. We were planning to survive, Chen corrected. There's a difference. We hoped the Federation would provide security. But hope is not a strategy. We prepared for the worst while working for the best. And what about now? Asked a Mentari representative. The Corinthian Dominion knows about your fleet. They will see your actions as an act of war. Then they should have thought of that before they invaded our space and killed our people, Chen said flatly. We offered peaceful surrender. We took prisoners rather than slaughtering them. We acted with restraint. If the Dominion wants revenge, they're welcome to try, but they should know that Earth has 3 more carriers and we're not afraid to use them. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates praised Earth's resolve. Others worried about escalation. But Chen could see that the dynamic had fundamentally shifted. Before the battle, humanity had been treated like children. Now they were being treated like adults. Dangerous, unpredictable adults, perhaps, but adults nonetheless. After the session ended, Chen returned to the human embassy. He found Admiral Kobayashi waiting for him in a secure conference room. The Admiral had arrived on Earth's newest stealth ship for this meeting. How did it go? She asked. They offered us a Security Council seat. Kobayashi's eyebrows rose. Already? I expected more resistance. Some species opposed it, but most recognized the reality. We're a major military power now. They want us inside the tent rather than outside. What about the Corinthians? No official word yet. But our intelligence suggests they're in chaos. Losing their entire fleet at Proxima was a massive blow to their prestige. Other species they conquered are starting to rebel. The Dominion is fighting to maintain control. Good, Kobayashi said. Let them struggle. It'll keep them too busy to bother us. Chen sat down and rubbed his eyes. Sarah, do you think we did the right thing? Building all of this in secret? The galaxy trusted us and we hid the truth from them. The galaxy underestimated us, Kobayashi corrected. There's a difference. They looked at Earth and saw primitives with chemical rockets. They didn't see our potential, our determination, our refusal to be victims, but now they're afraid of us. Fear and respect are close cousins. I'd rather be feared than dismissed. Chen nodded. I suppose. But I worry about the future. What happens when other species start building their own secret fleets? What happens when trust breaks down completely? Then we'll deal with it. Chen, humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and near-extinction events. We're still here because we adapt. We endure. Whatever the galaxy throws at us, we'll handle it. There was a knock on the door. A junior diplomat entered. Ambassador, there's someone here to see you. High Admiral Vexthor. He says it's important. Chen and Kobayashi exchanged glances. Send him in. Vexthor entered, ducking slightly to fit through the human-sized doorway. He nodded to both of them. Ambassador Admiral, thank you for seeing me without an appointment. Hi, Admiral. What can we do for you? Vexthor sat in a reinforced chair designed for larger species. I wanted to speak with you privately, off the record. Go on. The council meeting today was political. Lots of posturing and speeches, but the truth is simpler. The galaxy is changing. The Corinthian Dominion is not the only threat. There are other aggressive species out there. Pirates, warlords, entire civilizations that see the Federation as weak and divided. And we need allies who are willing to fight. Not just talk about peace and cooperation, but actually fight when necessary. Earth has proven that you're willing to do that. So the Security Council seat is about more than just recognition, Kobayashi said. You want us in the fight. I want partners who understand that sometimes violence is necessary. The Federation has grown soft, Admiral. We've had peace for so long that many species have forgotten how to fight. Earth hasn't. You're still warriors. And we need that. Chen leaned back. What exactly are you proposing? A mutual defense pact. Earth and the Zalthine hegemony. If either of us is attacked, the other responds. Joint training exercises, technology sharing, intelligence cooperation. You want access to our fleet. I want Earth as an ally rather than an unknown factor. Look, I know you don't trust us completely, and I don't blame you. But the galaxy is dangerous. Having friends is better than standing alone. Kobayashi looked at Chen. He nodded slightly. We'll consider it, Chen said. But understand, High Admiral, Earth's priority is protecting our own people. We're not going to become the Federation's attack dog. I wouldn't want you to be. But when the next crisis comes, and it will come, I'd like to know that we're on the same side. Vexthor stood. I should go, but think about what I said. The galaxy thought you were weak. Now they know better. Use that advantage wisely. After he left, Kobayashi turned to Chen. What do you think? I think he's right about one thing. The galaxy is dangerous, but I also think he's testing us, trying to figure out if we're allies or threats. And which are we? Chen smiled. Both. We're allies to those who respect us, and threats to those who don't. That's the best position to be in. Admiral Kobayashi returned to the Indomitable the next day. The great carrier hung in orbit around the Federation capital world, a silent reminder of Earth's power. Thousands of aliens came to see it, taking pictures and tours of the exterior. It had become something of a tourist attraction. On the bridge, Kobayashi stood at her usual spot and looked at the planet below. It was beautiful. Purple oceans, green continents, cities that glowed even in daylight. This world had been at peace for 5,000 years. No wars, no conflicts, just prosperity and growth. Earth had never known such peace. Humanity's history was written in blood and fire. But maybe that was okay. Maybe species needed to struggle to become strong. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Put it through. General Martinez appeared on the screen. He was smiling. Admiral Kobayashi, I have news. The President has authorized construction of 2 additional supercarriers. They're also approving expanded shipyards in the Kuiper Belt and Saturn's orbit. We're doubling the size of the fleet. That's excellent news, sir. What about the Security Council seat? We're accepting it. Chen will make the official announcement tomorrow. Earth is going to be a major player in galactic politics whether we like it or not. Might as well embrace it. Yes, sir. What are your orders for the battle group? The Indomitable will remain at the Federation capital for another month. Let them see what humanity can do. Let them remember. Then you'll begin a tour of our colony systems. Show the flag. Remind everyone that Earth protects its own. Understood, sir. And, Admiral, well done. You and your crew have done something remarkable. You've changed the galaxy's perception of humanity. That's not a small thing. Thank you, sir, but I couldn't have done it without my people. They're the real heroes. Agreed. Martinez out. The screen went dark. Kobayashi walked to the forward viewport and looked at Earth's new reality. They had been underestimated, dismissed, patronized, but no more. Now they were respected, feared, recognized as equals. It had taken 15 years of secret work, trillions of dollars, the combined effort of an entire planet. But they had done it. They had built a fleet that could stand against any enemy. They had proven that humanity was not prey. Ma'am? Her executive officer approached. The crew is asking permission to display the flag. Permission granted. Across the hull of the Indomitable, lights activated. They formed a pattern that slowly became visible. The flag of Earth. Blue and green representing the oceans and continents. White stars showing humanity's reach into space. And at the center, a simple message in every language Earth spoke. We stand. 2 words. But they meant everything. We stand for our people. We stand against tyranny. We stand when others fall. We stand because we must. The galaxy had learned that lesson at Proxima Centauri. Earth was not weak. Earth was not helpless. Earth was a species that had survived everything the universe could throw at them, and they would continue to survive. Captain, Kobayashi said quietly, set course for the Tau Ceti system. Let's go check on our colonies. Yes, ma'am. Setting course now. The Indomitable's engines flared. The massive carrier began to move, her escort ships falling into formation around her. They accelerated away from the capital world, heading toward human space. Behind them, aliens watched and whispered, some in admiration, some in fear. But all of them knew one thing now. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. Far away in the depths of the Oort cloud, construction continued on Carrier Group 7. New ships taking shape in the darkness. More weapons being built. More defenses being prepared. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Trust, but verify. And never ever let anyone think you're helpless. The galaxy had underestimated Earth once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. And somewhere in the cold darkness of space, aboard the largest warship humanity had ever built, Admiral Sarah Kobayashi stood on the bridge and smiled. They had done it. Against all odds. Against all expectations. They had proven that Earth could stand with the giants. And if those giants ever threatened humanity again? Well, Earth had 3 more carriers, and they weren't afraid to use them. The future was uncertain, dangerous, full of threats both known and unknown. But for the first time since joining the galaxy, humanity faced it with confidence. They were ready. They were strong. They were not victims. They were survivors, and they would make sure everyone remembered it.